Sand beneath our feet lies beneath our hearts. Part 1. The beginning of the journey. Summer in the city was suffocating. The asphalt melted under the midday sun, shop windows glared with reflected light, and the metro was filled with a damp, stuffy heat that made clothes stick to the skin. Elena, clutching a folder of documents to her chest, pushed her way through the crowd on the platform. Her ears were filled with the hum of voices, announcements, and the screech of trains, but her mind was already there, on the seashore, where a fresh breeze would tussle her hair and the waves would whisper something soothing. "Lena!" a voice called from behind. She turned. Artyom, her husband, was hurrying through the crowd, adjusting his sunglasses as he walked. In his hand were 2 cups of coffee. "Sorry, I'm late. The traffic is hellish." He handed her a coffee, and she smiled involuntarily. Even in this rush, he remembered the little things. "It's fine. The train hasn't arrived yet." They stood side by side, shoulder to shoulder, watching people bustle about, dragging suitcases, searching for window seats. In 3 hours, the airport, 2 more, and they would land in a sunny seaside town, where a cozy room with a sea view was booked. A week without work, without deadlines, without endless meetings. Just sun, sand, and the 2 of them. "Are you sure Masha will be okay with Grandma?" Artyom asked, looking at the board. "Of course. She's thrilled. The pool, her friends, ice cream every day. And we can finally be alone." He nodded, but something fleeting passed in his eyes. Elena didn't give it a second thought. Flashback. 5 years ago. They met at a corporate party. Elena had just joined the company, and Artyom was already a lead specialist. She noticed him immediately, tall, with a hint of casualness in his dress and a disarming smile. "New here?" he asked, approaching with a glass of champagne. "Yes. I haven't even memorized all my colleagues yet." "Then let's start with me." Artyom. He told her a funny story about how, on his first day, he mixed up the offices and spent half an hour explaining marketing intricacies to an accountant. Elena laughed until she cried. Within a month, they were walking in the park, holding hands. 6 months later, they moved in together. A year later, they got married. The wedding was modest, only close friends and family. At the registry office, Artyom whispered in her ear, "Now you really won't get rid of me." Present time. The train began to move. Elena pressed against the window, watching the city dissolve into the haze. Artyom took out his phone, typed something quickly, and immediately put it away. She noticed him nervously running a hand through his hair. "Who was texting?" she asked. "My boss." Clarifying something about a project. She nodded, but something tightened inside her. Part 2. The first days. The hotel greeted them with the coolness of its marble lobby and the scent of tropical flowers. The room was even better than in the photos. A spacious terrace, a sun lounger by the railing, and in the distance, the endless blue of the sea. The first days passed like a fairy tale. They woke to birdsong, had breakfast on the terrace, swam until their lips were blue, sunbathed, strolled along the promenade, and sampled local delicacies. Evenings were for restaurants with live music, long talks under the starry sky, and embraces to the sound of the surf. "You know," Artyom said one evening at dinner, "I haven't felt this peaceful in a long time." Elena smiled, stroking his hand. "Me neither." But somewhere on the periphery of her consciousness, a barely perceptible anxiety was beginning to stir. Artyom started taking walks more often after lunch, when she preferred to rest in the room. He returned late, citing traffic or long phone calls. "Who are you talking to so often?" she asked once. "Oh, just work stuff. Nothing important." She nodded, but something tightened inside. Flashback. 3 years ago. They went to the mountains for a weekend. They stayed in a small cabin with a fireplace, with no one else around. The first evening, they sat by the fire, drank mulled wine, and told each other childhood stories. Do you remember the first time you kissed me? Artyom asked. You kissed me? On that bench near the office. Right. I was so nervous then, I thought you'd brush me off. I just don't like to rush. He pulled her closer. But now we have a whole life ahead of us. Present time. On the fourth day, Elena decided not to wait for him after his walk. Instead, she took a camera and went to the beach alone. The sun beat down mercilessly, the sand burned her feet, but she walked on, peering at the silhouettes of vacationers. And then, familiar laughter. She froze. Artyom was sitting under a sun umbrella with a young woman. They were drinking cocktails, laughing. She touched his arm, and he was smiling in a way he hadn't smiled at her in a long time. Her heart sank. She wanted to approach, to scream, but her feet were rooted to the spot. Instead, she took a picture, blurry, but clear enough to recognize them. That evening, she was silent. Artyom was telling her something, but she wasn't listening. Questions swirled in her head. How long? Why? What did I do wrong? Lena, are you okay? He asked, noticing her detachment. Yes, just tired. She went to bed, turning her back to him. He tried to hug her, but she moved away. What's wrong? Nothing. Part 3. The truth. The next day, she waited for him to leave and checked his phone. The password was still the same, their wedding date. Inside, a conversation with that very woman. Teasing, hints, promises to meet tonight, as usual. Her hands were shaking. She sat on the bed, clutching the phone. There was a knock at the door. It was a maid. She brought towels, but upon seeing Elena's face, she stopped. You're crying? Elena nodded. Your husband? Another nod. The maid sighed and sat down beside her. I've seen them. Every day in the same cafe. She's a local. Works at a souvenir shop. Elena buried her face in her hands. Thank you, she whispered. Flashback. A year ago. They were celebrating their wedding anniversary at that very restaurant where they had first kissed. Artyom ordered her favorite dish and a bottle of wine. You know, sometimes I'm afraid all of this is like a dream, he said, looking into her eyes. That one day I'll wake up, and you won't be there. Nonsense. I'm not going anywhere. Promise. I promise. He smiled and raised his glass. To us. Present time. That evening, she waited for him in the room. He walked in smiling, but the smile vanished the moment he saw her face. Lena, don't. She raised her hand. I know everything. He froze. How? It doesn't matter. What matters is you betrayed us. You betrayed everything we had. He tried to say something, but she interrupted. I'm leaving tomorrow. Alone. Lena, listen. No. You've said enough. She packed her things and called a taxi. He stood in the doorway, unsure what to do. You can't just leave like this. I can. She walked out without looking back. Part 4. The return. On the plane, she stared out the window at the clouds, at the sun breaking through them. Her mind was empty. Only the beating of her heart and the whisper of the waves, which now sounded like a mockery. At home, her mother greeted her. What happened? She asked immediately upon seeing her daughter's face. Elena burst into tears. He cheated on me. Her mother hugged her, silent and tight. Everything will be okay, she whispered. You're stronger than you think. The following days passed in a haze. Elena quit her job. She couldn't bear being in the office where everything reminded her of Artyom. She moved in with her mother so she wouldn't be alone. She lay on the sofa all day, staring at the ceiling. One day, her mother brought her a cup of tea and sat beside her. "Lena, I understand how much you're hurting. But you can't just disappear. You have a daughter. A life you've built." "What life?" Elena gave a bitter smile. "Everything I had is ruined." "No. You still have the most important thing. Yourself. And Masha. And all of us who love you." Elena woke up to her own sob. The room was dark. She had forgotten to close the curtains. Outside the window was a gray, pre-dawn sky, as bleak as her thoughts. She reached for her phone. 4:17. The screen lit up, revealing a dozen unread messages from Artyom. "Lena, please, let's talk. I know I'm guilty. But you can't just disappear. I love you. It was a mistake." She turned off the phone and buried her face in the pillow. Love. A mistake. These words now seemed empty, hollow, devoid of meaning. That night, she had a dream. She and Artyom were on the beach, the same resort, but everything was different. He was holding her hand, smiling, but when she looked at his face, she saw not her husband, but a stranger. She tried to scream, but her voice was gone. She woke up in a cold sweat, with a lump in her throat. In the morning, her mother found her sitting on the bathroom floor. Elena didn't remember how she got there. "I can't breathe," she whispered. "Everything is pressing in on me." "It will pass," her mother said, stroking her hair. "But not right away. What if it never does? Then we'll get through it together. Every day. Every hour. But you won't be alone." After some time, she opened her laptop for the first time in a month. On the desktop, a folder with projects, emails from colleagues. She stared at the screen for a long time, then clicked reply and wrote, "Hello. I'm ready to return to work. When can I start?" The reply came 5 minutes later. "Glad to have you back. We'll see you on Monday." She closed the laptop and walked to the window. Outside, rain, gray asphalt, the occasional passerby. But somewhere behind the clouds was the sun. And that was already something.